Welcome to the Charter School System Foundation online resource for school governance teams. The foundation was founded on the belief that meaningful change in education can occur only if principals, teachers, parents, and community members are empowered with the authority and flexibility to make decisions at the schoolhouse level to best meet the individual needs of each student. This presentation is made possible through a generous donation by Verizon Wireless. Join the nation's most reliable 4G LTE network, because better matters. The Foundation continues to build an online knowledge database for sharing ideas and disseminating important information. This module on curriculum, assessment, and instruction has been developed in partnership with the University of Georgia's Carl Vinson Institute. Since 1927, the Institute has worked with public officials throughout Georgia and around the world to improve governance and people's lives. Upon completion of this session, participants will know and understand that focusing on student achievement means a commitment to high performance. Definitions and examples of curriculum, assessment, and instruction, also known as CAI, will help participants understand the fixed and flexible aspects of CAI. In this session, we will seek to satisfy the following learning goals and objectives. First, we will seek to understand the role of the LSGT in making sound curriculum, assessment, and instruction decisions regarding the governance of the school. Then we will recognize the curriculum of Georgia's schools is set by the Georgia Department of Education and is the Georgia Standards of Excellence. We will understand that state-mandated assessments and benchmark assessments will be utilized in each of the specified grade levels and courses. Next, we will realize that the districts have flexibility with the creation and use of formative and summative assessments. Finally, we will recognize that districts also have flexibility with instructional decisions for lesson planning and assessment purposes. The school system organization chart is important to understanding the way a school district guides its work and decision-making. The flow of work and how roles are defined will help you, the governance team, understand your access points to the organization. Much like the Board of Education governs and guides the school district at large in cooperation with the superintendent, and LSGT's job is to govern and guide each school in cooperation with the principal. In this session, we are examining the services of the Assistant Superintendent for Instructional Services, which is one of the leadership areas administered by the superintendent. The title for this office may vary from system to system, such as Curriculum Director or the Office of Teaching and Learning, but typically there is a system-level administrator who takes the lead in supporting this important function. Before we begin with the content of this training, please place the presentation on pause and download the anticipation guide pictured on your screen. The document link is located on the Charter System Foundation website. Take a few minutes to think about what you already know about curriculum, assessment, and instruction, and jot those ideas down in the first column. Let's begin with curriculum. The learning cycle begins with curriculum, moves to assessment, and then on to instruction. The cycle continues as the instructional goals and evidence of student learning are compared to the learning standards. Then assessment and instruction are revisited to ensure rigorous learning is taking place for each student. What is meant by the term curriculum? Curriculum refers to the learning standards students are expected to meet within each grade level and high school course. In the past, we would have viewed the textbooks and other resources used in the classroom as the curriculum. However, all teachers and administrators within Georgia are guided by the Georgia Standards of Excellence, or GSE. Near the end of this presentation, on the resources slide, a web address will be provided for Georgia Standards. Please visit this site and explore the standards listed for grade and subject areas. Also, for some school systems, the framework for the implementation of the Georgia Standards of Excellence is the International Baccalaureate Middle Grades Program for grades 6 through 10. The IB framework promotes interdisciplinary units, as well as character development for students. Ask your principal or teachers who are members of the LSGT what framework for the implementation of Georgia Standards of Excellence for grades 6 through 10 is used in your school system. The Georgia Standards of Excellence serve as the foundation for all teaching and learning for Georgia schools. Just as when a house is built, the foundation is primary to the strength of the resulting structure. Now let's take a short quiz about curriculum. Place the presentation on pause and review the 3 statements on the screen. Decide if you agree or disagree with each statement. If you disagreed with the first statement, that the curriculum for the Georgia schools are the textbooks and resources used by the teachers, you are correct. No longer are textbooks and other resources considered the curriculum. If you also disagreed with the next sentence, that teachers can pick and choose which standard they want to teach, you are correct as well. Teachers must teach all the standards. Finally, if you agree with the statement that the Georgia Standards of Excellence serve as the foundation of all teaching and learning in Georgia schools, you are correct. Now let's move on to assessment. Assessment is defined to be the wide variety of methods and tools used to evaluate, measure, and document academic readiness, learning progress, skill acquisition, or educational needs. Assessment is the gathering of evidence of student learning and readiness. Near the end of this presentation, on the resources slide, a web address will be provided for the Georgia Department of Education assessment calendar for the 2017-18 school year. There you'll find the schedule for the milestone tests, which are end-of-grade and end-of-course assessments. Each Georgia school district has the flexibility to select testing dates within the DOE assessment window. The assessments are coordinated district-wide to maintain consistency and expectation. This is important since each course and end-of-grade assessments are required. With a firm foundation on the Georgia Standards of Excellence as the curriculum, the other fixed features of this house of learning being built every day in classrooms are benchmark tests and the milestone tests for end-of-grade and end-of-course. Now let's explore how assessments are used. Some assessments are used for learning and are called formative assessments. This means that these forms of assessment are used to make adjustments to immediate or future instructional practices and strategies based on the needs exposed therein. Formative assessment should be followed quickly with feedback to the teachers, students, and eventually the parents to ensure the learning needs of the students are addressed. Summative assessments are assessments of learning. These types of assessments are typically unit tests, or quizzes, or standardized tests such as the Georgia milestones when learning has already taken place and no instructional adjustments are planned. It stands to reason, then, that any assessment or set of questions can be used formatively or summatively. Feedback from quiz items certainly can be used to address student misconceptions identified from the quiz. Often questions or sections of questions are used to identify concepts that have been misunderstood. Then, teachers can choose to provide remediation of these concepts with second chances offered to the students to prove their new understandings in light of the remediation. To sum up the concepts of formative and summative assessments, place the presentation on pause and read the analogy that appears on the screen. Assessment results are communicated to a variety of audiences. Feedback from formative assessments are communicated daily with teachers and students and regularly with parents and administrators. Summative assessments such as unit quizzes, tests, and projects are communicated with teachers, students, parents, and administrators. Check with your school system to find out how this information is communicated in paper form or electronically through a parent portal or other real-time access tools. In addition to teachers, students, parents, and administrators, the Georgia Milestone Test results are available to the public for schools, school districts, and the state on the Georgia Department of Education website under the term assessment. Now let's take a short quiz on assessment. Place the presentation on pause and review the statements on the screen. Decide if you agree or disagree with each statement. If you disagreed with the first statement that the end-of-course and end-of-grade assessments are optional You are correct. These assessments are required. You should have agreed with the second statement that formative assessments are used daily to provide feedback to students and teachers so that adjustments for instruction can be made. Finally, if you disagreed that multiple choice items are used solely for summative assessments, you are correct. The last area of teaching and learning to explore is instruction. Within the learning cycle, we have already discussed the curriculum as the Georgia Standards of Excellence, as well as the concepts of assessment. Now we are ready to discuss instructional decisions with student learning in mind. Instruction is considered to be the units and lessons that teachers use. Additionally, the idea of instruction includes the approaches that are structured, sequenced, and led by teachers. Flexibility exists for teachers to make instructional decisions within the main constructs of the curriculum and assessments. In constructing a house of learning, the foundation of curriculum and some of the support structures of assessment are fixed. However, within the house, walls and other amenities can be placed to suit the desired outcomes. Teachers collaboratively plan instructional strategies, sequences, and pacing based on the needs of their students. They move with unity, not uniformity, aiming at the same goal and moving in the same direction. This is the full learning cycle, starting with a common understanding of the curriculum, the Georgia Standards of Excellence. Teachers plan assessments to gather evidence of student learning and to serve as checkpoints among the instructional path. Then teachers plan specific instructional units to meet the needs of their students. Results of the assessments are compared back to the curriculum, and then the cycle begins again. In addition to the instructional focus for a particular grade level or course, entire schools have an instructional focus. This school-wide instructional focus could be based upon four main ideas: sound educational research that proves its effectiveness, identified school interests, instructional technology, and identified consequences. Identified consequences include considering ways the instructional focus will impact future grades or schools within the school district. Most school districts have already created guidelines for a school-wide instructional focus. Examples of these guidelines are: facilitate instruction so that students make connections between prior learning and new learning, provide opportunities for each student to use globally diverse perspectives in seeking solutions to meaningful problems, differentiate instruction so that every student is challenged, use digital media to support student learning. Other examples of a school-wide instructional focus are dual language learning. Some schools use this approach for all teaching and learning in English and Spanish. Outdoor classrooms. Some schools convert space outdoors as instructional areas which can be used for every subject in each season. Enrichment clusters are groups of students who share common interests and who come together during specifically designed time blocks to pursue these interests. STEM, which stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics, is a certification granted by the Georgia Department of Education that designates the school has met rigorous standards for interdisciplinary units of study in these areas. Schools can also become certified as STEAM, or Science, Technology, Engineering, the Arts, and Mathematics. It's now time for our last quiz. Place the presentation on pause and review the statements on the screen. Decide if you agree or disagree with each statement. If you agreed with the first two statements, that teachers plan instruction collaboratively but have the freedom to make it their own in their classroom, and instructional adjustments should be made following formative assessments for learning, you are correct. You should have also agreed with the last statement. Teachers had the flexibility to make instructional decisions to meet the needs of students. The overarching goal of this presentation was to demonstrate how the ideas of curriculum, assessment, and instruction exist together within the learning cycle. Some of these components are fixed while others are flexible. All work together to provide a rich teaching and learning environment for the students across Georgia. Now let's take a look at the anticipation guide you were asked to begin completing at the beginning of this presentation. Did you learn some things you did not know? Were some ideas clarified from what you previously thought. Place the presentation on pause and jot down thoughts for the second column. What did you learn today? If you have questions about curriculum, assessment, and instruction, discuss these ideas with your principal as well as members of your LSGT who are educators. Serving as an LSGT member will be rewarding and challenging. Ensure that the governance team takes a school-wide and community perspective on the issues that are presented. Act with integrity and maintain confidentiality of sensitive information shared in the process of conducting work of the team. Devote sufficient time, thought, and study to the performance of your duties. Become informed about current educational and community issues. Communicate in a respectful and professional manner. And finally, take no private actions that will compromise the local school governance team or school leadership. There are resources available to support the team's work. The Foundation supports charter systems through serving as a conduit for innovation, training for local boards, superintendents, and school governance teams, advocacy and collaboration with other education support groups. If you are viewing this presentation to fulfill training requirements for your charter system, please complete the registration and pulse check information about the content of this presentation. The document is located in the Charter System Foundation website. Please submit this information to your charter system coordinator. Thank you for your participation.